And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Here is your aviation weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan coming to you from the National Weather Service and looking at the satellite imagery this late Tuesday morning starting from the overnight hours. We continue to have an area of high pressure, weak high pressure over the Gulf and North Pacific with a ridge extending out through Bristol Bay and then running up along the west side of the state. Low pressure out toward the western Aleutians. This feature does have a couple of fronts associated with it. Widespread IFR conditions will be the case here Wednesday morning across much of the Bering Sea and throughout the Aleutian chain, just off of the west coast, coming inland there around Steller and Wales. And we expect IFR conditions to be lurking off of the northwest and Arctic coast. Also pockets of IFR in the Gulf Coast and up and through areas of the Panhandle. Wednesday afternoon, we do expect some convection, some scattered thunderstorms to develop with the daytime heating. Areas along the Alcan border, back up toward the central north slope, central Brooks Range. Also, the northern parts of the Panhandle, Wrangell, St. Elias Mountains, Talkeetnas, back toward the western Alaska Range. There could be isolated to scattered thunderstorms. Also, areas of smoke and haze here through the central, east central interior. This is just the result of not only local wildfires, but also just the smoke that's been out over Canada, just eventually dispersing, becoming more widespread, and being incorporated in this broad area of high pressure that's going to be building over the mainland as we go through the rest of this week and weekend. That's going to result in much warmer temperatures. Also, something else to keep in mind with those warmer temperatures coming up later this week would be allowing for greater takeoff lengths here, because it's certainly going to really high density altitude issues as temperatures in some locations will be getting around or above 90 degrees, 80s widespread. Thursday morning still could be an isolated thunderstorm, northern Panhandle, Wrangell, St. Elias Mountains, and then on Thursday afternoon, threat thunderstorms along the Alaska Range, Wrangell, St. Elias, Talkeetnas, westward into the southwest interior, portions of the lower Yukon, middle upper parts of the Kuskokwim Basin, and again, still areas of some smoke and haze here, especially across the interior. So, pass conditions Wednesday, we expect Anaktuvuk Pass to see generally VFR conditions, as will Adigan Pass there up toward the central parts of the Brooks Range. Further south and west, Lake Clark and Merrill, generally VFR conditions, though an isolated thunderstorm could develop, especially around Merrill Pass as we go through the afternoon and evening Wednesday. Same thing, Rainy Pass VFR, but an isolated thunderstorm could pop up in vicinity there in the afternoon and evening. Windy Pass, generally VFR conditions should hold. Can't rule out somewhere in the vicinity outside of the pass there could be an isolated shower or storm buildup. Isabel Pass, also VFR conditions with the best chance of an isolated storm down toward the south end of the pass. And then on Wednesday, Mentasta Pass will also see VFR conditions with the possibility of an isolated thunderstorm developing in vicinity of the pass. Talkeetna Pass also, or I should say Tanita Pass, also could see the potential for an isolated thunderstorm developing, though VFR conditions are expected. And then down toward Portage Pass, a split. Have to call it MVFR because the eastern half will remain MVFR, but the western half VFR conditions, which is not uncommon this time of year. Chilkoot and White in the northern Panhandle. We'll see VFR conditions become MVFR with an isolated thunderstorm possible in the vicinity of either of those passes in the afternoon and evening. Freezing levels aloft Wednesday morning will be highest out over the southwest portion of the mainland, upwards and above 12,000 feet, around and 14,000 feet there, the tip of the Alaska Peninsula through the eastern Aleutians, and across the rest of the mainland, generally 10 to 12,000 foot freezing levels aloft, so rather high, indicating just the warm air mass that is in place. Now, icing with such high freezing levels are of a nominal concern to general aviation, perhaps some areas above 12,000 feet between St. Matthews and St. Lawrence Island, also up through areas of the western Seward Peninsula and the Bering Strait. Upper level jet stream winds at 30,000 feet. They are strongest along the north slope out of the northwest to west, upwards to 85 to 95 knots. have a circulation, low pressure circulation here over the west central Bering Sea with a broad belt of 65 knot or so westerly winds over the central western Aleutians at 700 millibars or 9,000 feet. Winds along the north slope, west-northwest 40 knots or so. Out over the eastern Bering Sea, south winds of 35 to 40 knots. On the backside and underside of the low, 40 to 45 knot winds across the western central Aleutians. And then as we bring it down to 3,000 feet, a broad belt of wind associated with the frontal system of 35 to 45 knot winds here across the eastern and northern Bering. Also back out to and north of the western half of the Aleutian chain, winds anywhere from 35 to 45 knots. So we would expect to find the greatest threat for moderate turbulence to be in the vicinity of St. Lawrence Island, St. Matthew, St. Paul, surface to 3,000 feet, some considerable moderate turbulence. Also areas of moderate turbulence possible between the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, surface to 4,000 feet, and then way further west, the central and western Aleutians could see some moderate turbulence, surface to 3,000 feet.